fundamentally, the common denominator is what's the best for the boat and therefore the owner. And I have a process with our contractors. We're a Palmer-based boat and we use contractors here, but it's not a lifelong contract that I have with any of the contractors.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed last week's conversation with Captain Glen, where we're talking about crew dynamics, hiring of crew, progression of crew, and we were supposed to do 2 topics last week, Glen, but we just kept talking.
Just rambled on a little bit too long, I guess.
No, not too long, because it was very, very interesting. But let's do topic 2 today. Let's talk about contractors.
Yep.
Because I know that everybody in the industry that wants to supply vessels want to learn okay, what do I need to do to get on that shortlist or to get into that little black book? So I want to hear your
So we're talking about the whole realm of suppliers, provisioners, agents, contractors, refit, all those sorts of things.
Marinas, anything that comes to mind that you would use in services, and I'm trying to find that central point, that key element that combines all of it. And as you've been in the industry for 25 years, let's talk about, do you have a black book?
Look, the days of keeping business cards, I've still got them, funnily enough. I've still got folders and folders of business cards that I go right back to the Pacific, and my early days of yachting, and even back to Italy and France when I first worked on boats. I rarely pull them out apart from being sort of museum pieces. So, and also a lot of these companies have been rebranded. Look, there's fortunately for me on this boat, we travel the world, and we really have traveled the globe, and I feel quite proud of the fact that I can actually look at any particular given ocean and know that I've got a support network that I know of and that they know who we are, and that we're coming to their zone and we can reignite a relationship. As far as having a black book, nowadays we carry it all around on our mobile phones. However, there's the incredible thing about the yachting industry today compared to what it was when I started, I guess 25 years ago, is first of all the internet. When I first started, I think the second year I was working, my brother set me up with an email address because he was in technology. But also just the access to information. Everything's readily available now with VSEC technology, 4G, 5G. You can access information for suppliers, for restaurants, for shipyard services, for marinas very easily online, and there's always someone who's out there prepared to pass comment on it, which is not always the best source of reference, but it's a good database to start with. I do have key players around the world in the various cruising destinations that we go to, and also individuals that I probably wouldn't have used for 25 years, or 20 years since I was there, but on a whim I would give them a call and say, you're still in the game, because I really like what you did for us back then.
Before you continue, because I want to circle back to what you just said, you basically said you use modern technology, you Google search them, or and you look at reviews, you look at their website, you look at the way they present themselves. Is that what you're saying?
I don't pay much attention to reviews on websites, because I think there's a lot of noise there, and I'd probably pay more attention to reviews from colleagues. Can you recommend someone? And people will ask me the same questions. But it's a good basis of information. You have a foundation of information. Right, these are the suppliers that are available in this location. And then if you've never been there before, how am I going to make a decision on that? And you might talk to a colleague. I mean, there's all sorts of different ship captains forums and all sorts of stuff nowadays where you can get feedback and also get recommendations. Funnily enough, if you ask for a recommendation, for instance, for a hydraulics guy in Mallorca, you'll get 10 different opinions on who's the best.
Of course.
And you've got to, at the end of the day, you've got to make an executive decision. As far as the decision-making process goes, because that was something you were pointing towards in the beginning, my decision-making on here fundamentally comes down to a single common denominator. What is the best for the boat and the owner? I had a simple enough equation on this boat in that we have a budget meeting once a year. I indicate what my intention is as far as our cruising destinations and also our maintenance program, if we've got any big maintenance issues that need to be dealt with. We sit down, we talk numbers, we decide, and that's it. And then it's left over to me to make the decisions how I manage that.
Yeah.
So getting the best financial solution is not always the priority. It's more so what is the best for the boat. Okay, given a time frame that we have, and also the expectation of the quality of service that we want, and what we're dealing with. Is it an owner-related thing, or is it a builds-related thing? Is it something that relates to the longer-term benefit of the boat, or is it something that's less significant? All of those factors play into the decision making. But fundamentally, the common denominator is what's the best for the boat, and therefore the owner. I have a process with our contractors. We're a Palmer-based boat, and we use contractors here. But it's not a lifelong contract that I have with any of the contractors. As long as you're serving the expectations that we have of a contractor in your profession, in the time frame that we're allocating for the budget that we anticipate, then I'm happy with it. Once we fall outside of those parameters, then I start to say, well, are they serving our best interests, therefore our owner's best interests at this point in time? If not, there's alternatives. And I will often change contractors if I feel like our business is being taken for granted, and we're not a priority for contractors.
So the being taken for granted and not a priority, is that because we spoke last week about teams.
Yeah.
You somehow said the same thing, like you want the team to be dynamic and organic. You want them to, and so does that work for your contractors as well? Do you need to feel that they take you serious?
Look, one of the challenges in the industry, as you well know, is scale. You work with the shipyards here in Palmer, and 50-metre boat 10 or 15 years ago was a big deal.
Yeah. Nowadays,
it's not such a big deal from a scale perspective, and sometimes, and I understand it from the contractor's perspective, if they have an 80-metre boat versus a 50-metre boat, they can build X amount of man hours on an 80-metre boat as opposed to on a 50-metre boat, which is X minus something. And so we always have a deadline because we're a summer-winter boat, and we always have a fairly strict amount of time that we can do the work and be prepared for the next season. If I feel like that's at risk because we are not a priority for the contractor, then I'll look for someone who will treat us as a priority, because my priority is to get the boat ready on time and get it away and ready for the owners. Once again, going back to that common denominator, what is the best for the owner? And timing is important. So if I feel like, and I'll be very honest with you, if you don't have the resources to give us the manpower that we need to get the job done, then just let me know and we'll find an alternative. And if that means bringing someone in from Northern Europe, then so be it. You shouldn't have to, but that's part of the process.
And do you feel that contractors understand the situation? Because I think a lot of your fellow captains will say the same thing. We'll do what's best for the boats within the time frame that we have and within the budget that is available. I mean, I think that's common ground.
Yeah.
But what would be your tip to contractors, because you've dealt with a lot of contractors over those 25 years? What do you feel that how do you say that? What's the difference between a good contractor and a not so good contractor?
It's interesting because I've seen many, and I've got many friends who own businesses here on the island in supplies and provisioning, and also heavy engineering, steelworks, welding, carpentry, and often I'll have the conversation. How's business? What's going on? One of the challenges for a lot of the smaller businesses here is that economies of scale and doing bigger boats does not necessarily always translate to better business. They have to take on more employees, they have to take on more responsibility, and if the market falls flat for 6 months, then they've got to carry all that. So I can empathise with contractors and business people who are in the service of the yachting industry. Everyone has a different agenda. And I'm not saying the agendas are good or bad or by judgment, but if as a client, an operator, you can understand the fundamentals of the business, of the supply services, what is their intention? Is it to give you the very best quality provisions, or is it to give you the very best service or the very most timely service? Having understanding of the contractors and the key players in the organisations, I think, is important. I like, once again, same as we talked about with crew. It's a human business. It's a relationship business. So having someone who can come to me and be honest, Glenn, I think you're being unreasonable. Glenn, I think you're being unreasonable with your expectations given this time frame. Okay, thank you for being candid and honest with me. I didn't think that was the case, but maybe I need to adjust my approach to this and extend my timeline, or adjust my budget and extend my budget, or just change contract. So, and that's not a threat. It's just like, if it doesn't work for you and it doesn't work for us, then I need to find an alternative relationship. You know, not as a threat, but just purely because my intention remains the same. I want to get the job done for the boat in the time frame.
Well, and the contractor wants the same thing. They don't want to get into this bad conversation that at the end that they haven't made it, or they need to ask for extra budget, which will lead to a negative conversation, a negative ending of a relationship.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you know, the challenge in the yachting industry, it's all fairly custom, and expect the unexpected, because you go in with a plan and you've got to allow for contingencies. So one of the keys to my budgeting is I look at what I think is a realistic number. I've worked for very frugal owners, and I've worked for liberal owners, and there's a happy, warm space in between, but there has to be some sort of flexibility, because it's a yacht, and expect the unexpected. I mean, this boat's now 25, 26 years of age. And so there are things that are hidden that you don't see that are revealed, and so you can't be so fixed in your intention and your expectation of the project without having some degree of flexibility. And it also goes to the contractors. I think you know, we always try and get quotes for work that's been done, and you know, we don't always take the cheapest quote or the best quote or whatever it is. We look at the one which we believe is the most realistic, and that might be the most expensive. You know, because I don't really buy into the undercutting other contractors. Tell us what their price is and we'll beat it. You know, do it for the price that you believe you can do it for, you know, and provide us with the service in a timely manner. You know, and that's what I look for.
Good. Very interesting. I want to end with a few questions, just like short questions, short yes or no's. Let's see if you can do yes or no's.
Keeping it to a single word is going to be difficult.
Do you do you rely a lot on the opinion of fellow captains?
Yes.
Yeah. Would you use directories as a source of knowledge?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you believe trust is a big thing within hiring contractors?
It is paramount.
Paramount. I like the word paramount to end the session with. I think so trust is paramount. Guys, listen well to what Glenn said. I think the key elements of what I've heard today is that, like, trust is paramount. Don't overpromise, underdeliver. Be fair, be straight, be honest, because that leads to the best conversations. And it's a people's business. We're in a small industry. We'll see each other again. So we better work positively with each other, right?
Maintain the relationship. And even if you agree to disagree, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be friends again, or that there's not a future opportunity as well. You know, like for this particular project, it ain't going to work. But in the future, let's maintain the relationship. Yeah.
It's about engagement, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you for 2 sessions together.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.